So the current Gary Lineker saga still rumbles on, and it has gotten, I think, to a point of even more hilarity. That it is clear that the government have completely lost control of the ball, to use the football pun. How many more football puns can we get in? Well, we'll see how many we can get across the line by the end of this video. So, the government really, truly here has done and scored an own goal. That is absolutely for sure on this. Not only have they lost the conversation, they seem to have lost the very battle themselves that they were trying to point out, as this was just a massive sort of deception piece. They didn't like the fact that, of course, Lineker was criticizing the very thing that they were trying to do, trying to get it across, or at least cross it to into sort of the public consciousness as this was an okay thing. We're just trying to solve the small boats problem. And as we've said many times, this whole idea, this whole plan ain't going to work. From point to point, this is not going to work. And the sad thing is, even though what Gary Lineker did was good, and his criticisms were spot on, they were never, ever near the amount of criticism that Yvette Cooper, Labour's current shadow Home Secretary, gave to the Tories on this. Now, you have to wonder, as I wondered many times, why are people really supporting what Lineker was saying, but absolutely no one over the past couple of weeks has probably even mentioned what Yvette Cooper has done. Well, probably bar me last week, but that's it. So this is a two-centered problem, and I think we'll get into this in a bit. But before we do that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, do remember to ring the bell as well. That helps support the channel. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And of course, there's the YouTube thank you button. And of course, the Pony Club down below, you can join as well. So, what is going on here? You have Lineker, who is a football commentator who made, to be honest, let's take it in the grand scheme of things. His comments, yeah, they were good comments. Were they spot on? Absolutely. Now let's compare them to Yvette Cooper, who, again, Shadow Home Secretary, came out and said, hey, look, not only is your plan unworkable, it is moronic, it is stupid, it is not going to work for these exact reasons. In fact, you are basically repeating word for word, in some cases, of the bill put forward that Priti Patel had only put forward less than a year ago, which they had voted on in a very similar attempt to try and stop these small boats before. So we have to ask the question, why has Lineker gotten all this attention, but Yvette Cooper none? And ultimately, unfortunately, this represents, I've said before, the political disconnect that a lot of people have in this country. I mean, if I took my local MP, Dan Jarvis, out into the town centre and I started asking people, do you know who this guy is? Do you recognize this guy? Do you know who he is? Not a lot of people would recognize him. And that's the shame. Even again, if I took Yvette Cooper out into, Barnsley town centre and I just went, do you know who this woman is? Can you recognize this woman? Do you know who she is? No one would recognize her. No one would know her, unfortunately. Unless they generally have it, are actually into politics and are listening, or at least keeping, an eye on what's going on. I don't think there'll be a lot of people that would recognize her. But if I did the same thing with Gary Lineker, I wouldn't even have to ask the question. We would be swamped almost immediately with people asking for photographs and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not having a go at Lineker. It's just, this is a big problem that has happened mostly because people have really turned off from politics they've lost faith in politics, and that has been a very bad thing because that leads to bad outcomes. It leads people to not voting at local elections or not even voting when it comes around to election time. And that itself can have bad outcomes. People lose faith in politics. They don't understand how to interact with the system. They don't know if they have a problem that they maybe need to go to their local councillor about it, or maybe even contact their local MP about it. And then in that case, they don't know how to contact their local MP or even who their local MP might actually be. Or the fact that, yes, pretty much every sort of Thursday, Friday, your local MP will be holding a surgery where you can go and talk to them. People don't know about that. This is why many MPs continuously say, I hold these surgeries because it's, well, what I have to do, but almost no one turns up to them. And it is a very shocking state of our, to be honest, our politics. And to be honest, I do not want our politics to go in a celebrity fashion. I think that would do even more damage to it. But there's one thing I am really glad about, that we have seen celebrities actually start to talk more about politics. And when they've done this, not only just with Lineker, but look at Carol Vorderman. It was Carol Vorderman who was one of the first people really to continuously talk about Nadhim Zawawi's tax avoidance. It was her who continuously brought this up week after week after week on television and brought it to wider public attention. It was Anton Deck on their Saturday Night Takeaway who continuously made fun of Boris Johnson and Partygate and kept that in the public mood, or at least in the public consciousness, again and again. After weeks of it going on, they continuously took the mickey out of him. And I think this goes to show you why certainly a lot of MPs, at least the Conservative MPs, have really, really failed on this conversion, because they hoped that at least they could sort of do this, make an issue, and then they could just ignore it. But people know, because of Lineker, it's brought more attention to it and really shown their hypocrisy, but also has shown that these populist politicians, when they've come up against people who are actually popular, it has shown them time and time again that they are out of touch, have no humanity, and basically no common sense or even human decency. And it has just shown you how out of touch they really are, even though the Conservatives were desperately, desperately trying to make this populist sort of connection and make it a populist thing, but they ultimately failed. And this has now become an interesting issue of where time and time again, we have seen celebrities be better opposition to the current Tory, against the current opposition, than Labour. But as I said, Yvette Cooper, she did fantastic work, up against Suella Braverman this last week. She's got no praise, no people tweeting about how well she did. And that just unfortunately goes to show you where our current politics is. And it's very, very bad. And I do worry certainly about the future direction that we could go in. That's for certain. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a website link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.